One of these films is a pinnacle of vigilante cinema, and, along with the likes of Serpico and Taxi Driver, makes me forever grateful that I did not live in New York in the 1970s. The other replaced badass Charles Bronson with ex-badass Bruce Willis, and enlisted B-movie fanatic Eli Roth as director, who, unsurprisingly, upped the violence. But which is the best? The Death Wish franchise rendered itself a joke, the reputation fading with each subsequent installment, as the writers struggled to find new reasons for this aging, mild-mannered architect to go off the rails. Hey, this isn't the coffee I ordered. Death Wish 3, with its balls-to-the-wall Browning machine gun action, is mostly to blame for the reputation, but, separated from the series as a whole, the original film remains a perfectly decent, standalone crime thriller. Bronson plays Paul Kershey, a quiet architect who lives a simple life. He was a conscientious objector in the Korean War, and holds liberal and pacifist attitudes, despite the shocking increase in crime around him. These very attitudes are put to the test when the crime rate comes home, quite literally, as 3 thugs invade his property and attack his family. His daughter is raped and beaten, while his wife is murdered. Paul's grief and anger slowly simmers to a boil as it becomes apparent that matters need to be taken into his own hands as the police fail and society continues to crumble. There's something about 70s thrillers that are unrivaled. Thanks to the American New Wave that challenged Hollywood in the late 60s, anti-heroes were the new stars. Filmmakers were unafraid to take their reels of footage and just dip it into a big old vat of muck and grit. Death Wish is much the same, unafraid to paint New York as this festering, urban petri dish where unsavory characters are allowed to flourish. The bleak realism is of course most effective in the home invasion scene. After a fair build-up, where we see all the elements of this opportunistic attack fall into place, we are impotently forced to endure the whole vile affair. It is an ugly, ugly scene, and still shocking today. I can't help but liken it to the giddy criminal antics of A Clockwork Orange, though less stylized. The fact that Jeff Goldblum is the main offender of these thugs, yes, that lovable national treasure Jeff Goldblum of all fucking people, makes it all the more disturbing. Oh, I really hope his Disney Plus show doesn't take a really dark turn.
Goddamn rich cunt! I kill rich cunts!
Still, this sickening sequence, as well as watching Paul's reaction to the news, is all the film needs to get us audience members frothing at the mouth for some vengeance. Not so fast. Death Wish, for all its connotations, is a rather unusually measured film from this point on. Paul does not immediately leap into action. As a normal human being, that's just not his nature. He might be thinking it behind those watchful eyes, as thugs break into cars across the street, but he's not bloody Batman. After all, he's a pacifist. Instead, Death Wish takes the time to peel away his ethical codes. His first retaliation is a simple spur-of-the-moment punch to a mugger in self-defense. It's enough to give the man confidence to wildly bitch-slap a potted plant. A trip down to Arizona teaches him about guns and reminds him of old-school justice in the Old West. Perhaps he has flashbacks to a past life, and he returns to New York to become a modern cowboy. Having said that, you never saw John Wayne deliver his first kill halfway through the runtime, followed by him sprinting home to vomit into a bog. The kills themselves are tame. Paul gets the job done as quick and clean as he can. There's no action hero passion here, no sicko pleasure being derived in the moment. Just a plain blam blam with his pistol, and then off he goes into the night. It's also very important to note that he never gets specific revenge on Goldblum and his gang. That would be the normal endgame for this type of tale, but once those thugs leave the scene of the crime, they're gone. Poof. An alternate ending was floated, where Paul would confront the gang and meet his own end instead. While that definitely fits the realistic American New Wave feel, and would lessen some of the detractors' opinions on Paul getting away with it, I'm glad that idea was rejected. Personally, I love it the way it stands. Death Wish is about the bigger picture. There are more punks out there that need a seeing to than just the singular entity that wronged you, and so Paul makes himself appear a victim, encumbering himself with bags of shopping and rides around town until some cheap scum tries their luck. Like the crowd at the cowboy show, lapping up the killer justice, I'm sure we can all relate to Paul and his plan, to a degree, whether you want to admit it or not. Remember when you were a confused teenager, feeling pushed around by the world? Death Wish struck a chord with me then. And other times later, like when my girlfriend's moped was stolen from outside our house, seeing the hurt and victimization in her eyes. Whenever I walked down the streets in the following months, I kept an eye out for the moped, daydreaming about what I'd do if I caught the guy. Obviously, in reality, if I tried anything, I would get my ass handed to me on a shit-stained platter. Regardless of personal safety, it would be the wrong thing to do anyway, yet that fantasy somewhat remains, channeled into revenge media instead. Indeed, many criticise the film for glorifying vigilantism, and I can see where they're coming from. Paul is presented as a hero. It's a little bit unsettling when he's at home having a little party, his murderous outbursts giving back some sort of life. But you may wish to read that in a different way. Maybe you're delighted to see him delighted.
What the hell you want me to do, mow and groan for the rest of my life?
Whatever. The last thing I want to do is get caught in the crossfire of the Americans' Second Amendment debate. So, I'm just going to run over here now. Or, in the words of director Michael Winner,
calm down, dear.
To conclude, Death Wish 1974 is a must-watch for fans of dark crime thrillers from this period, sitting unhappily beside The French Connection and Dirty Harry, bathed in shadows and grime, and an almost horror soundtrack at times. I praise it for both its patient structure and unexpected third-act narratives, and of course, that perfect, iconic final scene. I usually avoid modern Bruce Willis releases like the plague. When I go to the shops, I wear a face mask over my mouth and nose. When I'm channel hopping and stumble into Hard Kill or Cosmic Sin, I put the mask over my eyes. No, take a step back. I love me some Willis. Always have, always will. So when I saw he was leading a Death Wish remake, and with a director who at least at some point had some form of clout, I was optimistic. My initial thought is that I couldn't believe it wasn't a Liam Neeson vehicle. Every fucking Friday there's a new film starring Big Liam as a reluctant gun-toting man. Perhaps his characters can only tread more towards the honest criminal type, or the family man with a hidden military backstory, thrust into new urban war zones. But I mean, it's not like Neeson can't relate to Paul Kershey.
There were some nights I went out deliberately into black areas in this city, looking to be set upon.
Oh no.
So that I could unleash physical violence.
Oh, no. Death Wish 2018 trades New York for Chicago.
Chicago.
Maybe it's a rite of passage for US cities. In Death Wish 2043, we'll see a 95-year-old Springsteen tackling crime on the streets of Philadelphia. La, 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 la. Paul is also given a career shift, now acting as an esteemed surgeon. I approve, as it ties neatly into the proceedings. When his family are attacked and brought into the hospital, he is already there. Attending to injured criminals and victims alike gives them access to weapons, clues, and new targets.
The ice cream man.
It also throws up the easy moral balance between saving lives and taking lives. Dun dun dun. Otherwise, the basic idea is the same. Paul's passive existence is torn asunder after a home invasion leaves his wife dead and his daughter fighting for her life. We are given more time to soak in the peaceful family events before the carnage, especially with the daughter. She's been accepted into her chosen college. So was her best friend. It's Paul's birthday. They're planning special dinners. We're just piling on all the happiness so Eli Roth can gleefully strip it all away. Speaking of, Roth reaches into his bag of hotter tricks for the home invasion scene. Where the original opted for a matter-of-fact setup, Roth delivers a creeping tone filled with spooky silhouettes, masked baddies, and suspense. Once the stalking is concluded, the scene interestingly plays the villains as disjointed in their aims. Some just want to burgle the house, others want to burgle the daughter's undergarments. It's a bit more refined than the original's crew of manic madmen, but far less shocking or impactful.
Think that's funny? Say it again. Come on, funny guy.
It is a curiosity to see Willis portrayed as a meeker man. It never fully works, after 35 years of him playing tough guys who won't back down in a fight and know how to handle a firearm. Despite the welcome presence of Dean Norris as the investigating officer, Walter White, this is not. The script does drain some emotion from the old mucker, which is a pleasure to see. But then, it's just a progression through the motions as Willis raids his leftover costumes from Unbreakable and Glass and goes on a spree. My big issue with this remake is that it does the very opposite of the original. Bruce Willis spends most of his journey tracking down the individual members of the burglar crew. He eventually works his way up the corpse ladder to the man who shot his wife. In other words, it becomes every other revenge movie and therefore lost my attention. All the right beats are there, structurally it makes sense, and getting personal revenge should feel more satisfying, but at the end of the day, it's a bit boring. It ties into the film feeling overall plastic. The original spends a good chunk of time with the cops figuring out how to deal with this vigilante, so that when the detective ultimately relocates him free of charge, it feels earned. Here, Dean Norris just sort of gives Willis a get-out-of-jail-free card because revenge is cool, kids. And there's a pizza on the table that demands his attention a bit more pressingly.
It was free pizza! Free fucking pizza!
On top of that, you've got AC/DC's Back in Black, of all songs, playing over the training montage. Me. It's like blaring out Fortunate Son in a Vietnam movie. What is supposed to be cool comes off as first base and clingy. Given that this is Eli Roth, I don't know whether he's in on the joke or not. Eli Roth's fingerprints can be seen here and there. His strange humour emerges during action scenes, with thugs slipping on puddles of blood, and getting taken out by rogue bowling balls, like an old cartoon. The violence is a big step up from the 1974 films, naturally, but given that this is the man who brought us Hostel and The Green Inferno, it is not as extreme as you'd imagine. Well, one scene involving a car and a man's unfortunately placed head notwithstanding. Joe Carnahan's script goes where the original never could, by updating the morality of the film into a social media age. Norris blames gang violence on social media. Willis learns how to use a gun via YouTube. His crimes go viral online. And we're given constant intermissions with some social media dudes weighing up the ethics. Ultimately, it boils down to the same three guys asking the same bloody question over and over. Is it okay to go outside and shoot someone with a gun? Yes or no? It also reminds me of the streamers cropping up in Free Guy. Yeah, that fucking modern masterpiece. No, that's not what you want your Bruce Willis starring Death Wish remake to remind you of. Jesus. Alas, if I keep this up for much longer, I'm gonna feel like this.
I wish I was dead. Oy.
So, let's have some verdicts. Charles Bronson is iconic here, and says so much without saying very much at all. Willis, while putting in some effort here and there, is still a bit tired.
Dr. Kershey, hi. How are you? I can leave if you want.
Goddamn rich cunt! I kill rich cunts!
Okay.
Best kills. The kills in both films are mostly simple pistol-based executions. I'm gonna give it to the remake,
Okay.
where Willis takes out a random goon during the finale. If nothing else, it was like watching a new Die Hard for a couple of seconds. Best furniture. No disrespect to Bronson's 70s decor, But Willis has got tactical fucking furniture. You can't beat that.
Tactical furniture.
Best film. Alright, yeah, this was an easy one this time. The original may remain controversial, but it is a defining film of the genre, and positively drenched in wonderful 70s grit. So, over to you guys. Fill your hands. What are your opinions on these films?
I wish I was dead. Hey.